October 5th, Tiny Epic Defenders back on Kickstarter again. Out with the old and in with the new. So Gamelyn Games is bringing Tiny Epic Defenders back on Kickstarter on October 5th, just a few days from now, and they were gracious enough to put the gameplay changes and a basic set of rules out there on Board Game Geek to build a little print and play to see what kind of changes they have. So I figured I would take this opportunity to print the game, kind of give you guys a run through and a review. Yeah. Print.
Please be sure to recycle. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick little run through for you just so you can kind of get an idea of the way the game plays, and I'll explain a couple of the differences here in the new version of Tiny Epic Defenders. So when you set it up, you always put your capital city in the middle here, and then you're going to randomly place these other regions around it. I have the markers from the first version that came out, so I'll just use those here. These are marking the threat level on each of these regions. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to take randomly, there's 9 of these enemy cards, so you'll randomly put 3 in one pile, and this will become your like the turn deck. You'll put 3 in another pile, that'll become your horde deck, and these last 3 you can kind of set aside. You don't use them in the game. Then you will take, these are dire enemy cards, and what you're going to do is take a couple of them. An easy game I think is 2, and then to up the difficulty you add more. So we're going to put 2 in this pile. Oh, I'm sorry, actually we're going to put 2 in the horde pile and take the other 2 and set them aside because we won't need them. These are the epic foes, so these are like the boss monsters. So you would randomly pick one, and then you would set that down. We'll set it over here for now. And the other one we will discard. So you can either choose whatever character you want. Doesn't really matter for right now. Pick the paladin, I guess, and the cleric, because they are the top 2, and set the other aside. And then both of them are going to have their own meeples, so they'll start off in the capital city. They each start out with full health. We'll make the paladin red and the cleric green. And then finally, this is the item deck, so you'll get an item if you defeat a dire monster. I just rounded these corners to make it easier to tell what's what. I just threw this game together real quick. I didn't do it like I would a normal print and play. I just wanted this to be quick so I can kind of play test the new version and see how it plays. Okay, and then, so you have, these are your turn cards. So what you'll do for your heroes is you're going to take the ones that identify the color of the hero you are. So I've got a red and a green. So I'll take the green card, and I will take the red card, and then this will say here you're going to take these all defenders cards. So for a 1 or 2 player game, you'll take this one. For a 1 or 2, and you'll use this in a 1, 2, or 3 player game. Discard these other 2 that are for the yellow and the blue. All right, so here's where the first change comes into this game from the first edition. Typically, what you would do is you would take your turn deck and you would shuffle these into it with the monsters, right? Well, this time you just shuffle these, and this will be the start of your turn deck. And you take the 3 monsters and you'll shuffle them and put it on top. So I like this change because it kind of helps the game get going quicker, because what happened before was if you get a bunch of hero turns right away, you kind of walk around with nothing to do. At least this gives the bad guys a little time to do a little more, so you actually have something to react to. So you'll take this stack. This is the stack with the 3 enemies and the dire enemies. And you will sort that up. You place it here on top of the epic foe. Here's the epic foe's health for when they come up. And then what you do is you start, right? So, okay, first things first. I guess I should explain. The goal is you want to defend the capital city. You want to keep the capital city from falling. As these threats go up, if it reaches the end on the capital city, you lose the game. It's destroyed. So basically what happens is as these monsters are drawn, they will have a little icon that matches either the mountains, the forest, the coast, the ruins, the desert, or the plains, and that means that's the region that they are attacking. So we'll show you that real quick. So the first enemy, and this is what it shows, is this one is attacking the forest, This one is attacking the coast. So what you would do here is you draw this card. Okay, so we are going to move up the forest. The forest is under attack, and then we will move up the coast. So that threat moves up one, and then we can discard that, put that in the discard pile. So if there were a hero here, they could actually take a damage to their health. So if the cleric was here and we drew this card, instead of moving the forest threat level up one, again, if it reaches the top here, that means it's destroyed, and then they'd be able to get to the capture, or to the capital city. But so if they attacked here and we had the hero, we could actually take 1 damage on the hero, and that would prevent that from happening. And this hero actually then just blocks, and they're doing what heroes do. So now again, let's say that the game has gone on and this has already been destroyed. If we were to draw this card with this forest, this wouldn't do damage to the forest because the forest is destroyed. There would be a card on top to identify that. And instead, it would go through to the capital city. So the capital city would then take a damage. But we'll get there. So then the second one here, and we see I pull another enemy. It's another forest, and so that brings the forest to 2, and the desert. So the desert will go up 1. And then here we have the ruins and the desert. I'm sorry, the plains. So the plains will go up 1. You actually do these in order, first and second, so we would do the ruins first. And then we turn, and now we have, so this is our first hero action. So this is an all defenders card, so what you can do, all defenders gain 3 action to spend collectively, or 4 if there's any destroyed regions. So we have no destroyed regions, so we only have 3 action points. And these can be all used by one hero, or they can be split in between the 2. So then what you can do, now the heroes have action. So move that back up because they didn't take damage. So the heroes can move on their action, or on their turn. So, you know, they can move to an adjacent region. So one thing to keep in mind is when you're at the capital city, the only regions adjacent are these 2. You can't go from the capital city to one of these regions here. You have to go out and then you can go around. So these are the only 2 that are connected. That's kind of how come these are rocking like that a little bit. So you can move on your turn. You can secure a location, which means if you're here, say I move here for 1 action, I can secure, which moves the threat level down 1 for an action, right? So that would be 2 actions right now. And you can also use an ability. So some heroes will have where it costs actions to use their ability, like right here. The cleric, I can spend 1 action point to gain 1 heart for myself or another defender in my region. So if we were injured or whatever, if I did a block earlier, I could say, hey, my 3rd action, I want to bring my health up, right? So for this, I'll just go ahead through with this. That was 1, secure the area for 2, and let's just get the paladin moving for 3. Now, if you ever start your turn in the capital city, you can rest. It's considered a rest, and at the start of your next turn, you would restore all of the defender's health. Another thing to note, other actions, each location has an action or of something that they can do. There's a passive and an active action. So these ones here are active, where they show, for example, for 1, you can swap the top 2 cards of the discard pile with the top 2 cards from the turn deck. This would cost you 1 action point. Right now, others, where'd that go? The fire went here, because we had 1 damage. Others here have what is called passive, and this is a passive one. So has a little hourglass. Let me bring this up so you can actually see it. It's got the hourglass. That means it's always in effect. So while in the desert, you lose 1 heart to reveal the top 3 cards of the turn deck and rearrange them in any order, placing them back on top. So you can just do that. Now, another thing to keep in mind during the original game, as well as for this game when this comes out, these will actually be double-sided, so they'll have like different. One will do the mirage here, and you flip it over, and on the other side it will be something different, just to kind of keep the variety going. Okay, so that would have been the hero's turn. We'll draw this card again. We have a red defender's turn, so now the red person gets to act. Anyway, what I'll do for her, let's just say I'll secure that for 1, move her up to here, and bring this down to 1. And then you would, in turn, you'd have the all defenders again, so which they can all move, and then we would have green. Okay, so let's say that turn was over. What you do then is you take this deck, you draw from the Horde deck the top card, and you mix it in and you shuffle it up. And then this would be your second batch of turns. So you'd go through, and once again, here you have an enemy. So good example. So 4. So we can either take a damage, or rather increase the threat on here, or the cleric can take a damage and then just defend it against this guy. Now this does the desert, so the desert will take a damage. Boom. This one, okay, we have ruins and we have plains, so the plains will take a damage, and the ruins, she's there, so she will defend, so that doesn't go up. So you continue to go through on this. You see, you'll have your user or your heroes, and you continue as normal, right? You go all the way through, and I was hoping, okay, I didn't. I was hoping that I pulled a dire enemy. So what happens when you get a dire enemy? So eventually, you may flip this. Okay, so this is a dire enemy. So first things first, you do what it says. So it says drain. The defender with the most health loses 2 hearts. If tied for most, choose which one. So let's say, okay, it's a tied. So we'll take 2 from the cleric. Because that just, why not? Okay, and then you can defend. So he attacks the ruins, and that is where the paladin is. So if you look here, it costs 2 hearts to defend. So to keep him from doing damage here, it's going to cost us 2 health. So we'll take the 2 health down, and that's considered defeating this guy. Now, because we defeated a dire enemy, we gain an artifact. So this, we would draw from the artifact, and this gives us something that we can attach to this hero. These are going to be item meeples, so this will be something that they will hold. So spend 2 energy to fight, dealing 3 damage instead of 1, once per turn. So now the paladin has this. So if at any point in the game, let's say we drew this card, right? So it's got the forest and the coast. Let's say the coast was already up to there. The forest, okay, we're just going to take the damage on the forest. But the coast, we can't block and it destroys it. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this card over, and we're going to cover it up. And now, this card is out of play, but now also, this enemy card, but now also the next bad guy that attacks this region, which was the coast. So let's say, I guess we don't have another one. So let's say we drew one that had the coast. The damage would instead go into here. This gets up to the top, again, you lose. So this is a change to the first edition, which I absolutely appreciate, because basically now that card's out of play, whereas with the original version, you would block it, but you would use a card that was out of play. I just like that this actually takes the card out of the deck. So kind of helps you out a little bit. So for example, if this was, let's say that this was that this one was the forest, and that took the forest out of play, you wouldn't even do the second attack. As soon as this first one went into play, boom, it's out of play. So okay, so you go around, you keep going and going and going, and then you flip over the epic foe. So you're going to do what it says. It says when a defender's card is drawn, that defender is immediately placed in the Colossus's mouth, only if no defender is currently in the Colossus's mouth, and a defender in the mouth of on their turn can only fight spending hearts instead of the action points. And then whenever on that little icon, so you'll see it throughout here, the defender is spit out and lands in the outer region opposite the Colossus region. So okay, so this, let's say we flip this guy. This guy's going to go into this region here, which is the desert. So he will be over here with 10 health. So the game continues, and you continue to draw, doing the damages, blah, blah, blah. When it comes up to a hero, that hero can then say, okay, I'm going to go over to here. 1, I'm going to pay an action to jump in his mouth. 2, and then I'm going to, take 2 hearts. So let's say she has full health, whatever, just to illustrate the game. Take 2 health to do 2 damage, and so on. And you would keep going until, at some point, either you defeat the epic foe or the capital city crumbles. And that's it. All right, so I just want to take a quick minute to show you guys the difference in the changes in the art. So here are these were the defender cards, or the hero cards. So you see the differences. I feel like the art is a lot more, again, this is black and white, but I just feel like it's a little bit more modern, and I like the cards being long ways as opposed to being up and down. So this was the all defenders, and here you see like the difference in the red. So here's some of the artifacts. So you see the difference I just feel like it's a lot more, again, modern, a lot more exciting, the art changes. The rules have changed too on the artifacts from the original version to the demo version that they put on Board Game Geek. So these are probably, to me, some of the biggest changes. While the art was, the art's good, I just feel like it looks better on the new one. Again, I like the cards being long ways. I feel like you can see more of the art. This, they're kind of, just squeezed in. Again, here's another example. And this also indicates first and second, whereas this doesn't. The dire enemies, same thing. The art's a little more, a little less cartoony, is how it comes across. In the whole game, the new art looks to be considerably less cartoony. Here are the locations. So here, for example, this is the forest. I feel like the old way, the old art, the art didn't stand out as much. It was more like you're looking at it through rear view window, whereas now it's nice, it's full page. I really like this. Okay, so before you would put your threats, as the threat level went, you put it at the top. It's on the side now. I like the aesthetics of this I like better. But what I really like here is you have really big what region it is by pictures. Because again, the enemy cards have the pictures on it. That's how you reference it. Whereas the old ones, it was just up here in the little corner. So see even here on the ruins, you see how you have the big picture on the big iconography here versus a little here. Because when you have a whole table laid out and they're like this, you see how these kind of can blur together. If they're far away at a glance, you can't really tell, whereas I think here, it stands out a whole lot more. And also, just to give you guys an idea, if you don't have the original, these are double-sided, so whereas this, gives you one action, there's a different one on this side. Here's the old Paladin versus the new Paladin. Again, I think I like this better. I feel like the layout is a lot more, it's just better laid out. I like that there's a player aid right here because this helps when you have new players. It's all on your player card. Like here's the new cleric and the old cleric. So here's a Colossus, completely different visually. The new ones add that little Spitfire action or on the flame action, whereas before it was just you have your one thing to do. Now there's like kind of more of a an explanation or something more happens with the bad guys, with the epic foes. And here's the new Goblin. So again, I think the art is much better. There's much more interaction. Overall, I really think the new one's an improvement to the old one.
All right, guys, that's it. That was the new Tiny Epic Defenders coming to Kickstarter later this week. Overall, I think the new changes are good. Tiny Epic Defenders was never my favorite in the Tiny Epic series, and with the changes, I definitely enjoyed playing a whole lot more than I did before. So I'm super excited for this to launch. I will be backing it day one for both the base game and the expansion. All right, guys, I'm Lee from Geek City, USA. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that jazz, and check us out next time. We will see you later. Take care.